Welcome back, guys, to another episode in our series about smalls that sell. For those of you that are new to the channel and the series, what this series is all about is the power of selling smaller items and figuring out how to take what is hot right now in the big box stores, break those down so we can put our own twist to it, and recreate these popular items at home. I picked out several fun trending items that I think would sell like crazy, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So this first one is going to be from one of my favorite places on earth, the old PB. And again, like I've said before, if these high-end stores are stocking these items and they're located in their popular or hot items section, they are selling these things and they're selling them at crazy prices. So keep that in mind anytime that you're in any of these stores or on the website. They will not waste valuable shelf space on things that will not sell. So the PB is a master whenever it comes to taking an item that was previously hot, redesigning it a little bit, and putting it out as a totally different item. And here's an example. So on this first one, this is a cookbook stand. In the past, we covered a cheese board that they were selling that was a very similar style. Obviously, they found that this was a hot item, and as it started to trend down, they created a brand new product using a similar design. And I think that this thing is awesome. So yes, this is a super cool cookbook stand, but they are wanting $189 for this. What is setting this off from other stands is this design. It's almost like an inlay design, but it is super simple to do. So let's break this down. So the backboard of this holder is 11 inches wide by 11.5 inches tall. So what would fall within that size range that we could get our hands on pretty easily? And that could be a couple of things. So we can buy 1x12 boards, which are actually 3/4 by 11 inches or 11 1/4. And I looked those up, and for an 8-foot 1x12, right now in my area, they're right around $16 a piece. Well, but that seemed a little high to me. So I started thinking, what else is similar to this? Shelving boards. Just scrolled over to the shelving department, and the exact same 1x12s was in the shelving board section for $12.33. So if you decide to make something like this, I would use shelving boards. We're going to rip our board down to 11 inches wide and 11.5 inches tall. Whenever you make that height cut, put a 30-degree angle on the bottom of this board. And that's what you're seeing here at the bottom. It looks like it's right around 30 degrees. And then the actual stand that holds it up from the back, it looks like it's cut at 30 degrees as well. So we'll have a 30-degree top, and it looks like it's only about 6 inches long. But back to this backboard. So what is setting this off? The backboard itself is the only thing that is painted. The rest is natural. And that's what's giving this wow factor. And the next step is going to be to cut this notch into the material. And it looks like this notch is only about 1/4 of an inch deep. Whenever I say notch, it's where this 2-inch board is actually resting into to make it look like that it's inlaid in or inset in. But if you zoom in at this green one, you can actually tell in the corner where they have just cut this 2-inch notch in the board and then just glued in this inlay. So to get this notch, you can do this a couple of different ways. You can use a dado blade or a dado stack if you have one on your table saw. If you do not, no worries. You can get the exact same result using your table saw and the blade that is on it. Looks like that the notch itself is about 2 inches wide and sits down from the top about 1 inch. So if you're using your table saw, raise the blade up to where its highest point is 1/4 of an inch or whatever the thickness of the material that you're going to be inserting is. Then you'll make your first cut at 1 inch away from the top edge. And then all that you would do is repeat this cut, moving the board over 3/16 of an inch at a time or whatever the curve of your blade may be until you get a 2-inch notch. Super simple to do, super fast to do, and you do not have to have any special jigs or anything like that to achieve this. So now we have this notch in our board. It's time to paint it. We'll go ahead and get this painted or stained or whatever that you would like to do to it. And then while that's drying, go ahead and cut your other parts. So we've already talked about this insert that it looked like it was around 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch, whatever that you have cut your dado to. So let's go ahead and get that sanded, get it ready, because you're not going to be able to sand this once you have it inserted. So it needs to be sanded and finished on the front and the ends before you glue it in. And also, if you want a tighter bond with the glue, do not paint inside of the notch that you have cut. And this is what's going to set it off. So maybe you could use a contrasting wood to your colors. Looks like that they have just used some oak, but really a strip of any type of hardwood would look really nice with this. Whatever species that you decided to go with for your insert, go ahead and make the bottom cookbook holder out of it. And if you notice, it sits in about 1 inch from the sides. As far as attaching this to your backing, I'll place this where I wanted it. Take a little pencil mark on the inside once it's level, take it off, then measure down 3/8 of an inch and pre-drill my holes from this side. This is going to ensure a proper placement. We would not have to get our measurements from the back off of that 30-degree angle. And then I would just glue and screw this in from the back. And as far as the stand holder itself, there's a couple of different ways you can attach that. Easiest way to do this is to go ahead and get everything nested together at this 30-degree angle that lines up, glue, and throw in some brad nails from the back. So with just a little bit of work and creativity, you can take less than $2 worth of material and make something that the big box stores are selling for $189. Now, I would not try to get $189 out of this because you're going to have a hard time. But you could even go a step further and add a family name or a saying to the front lip of this and make it customizable. If you do something like that, make sure to charge a little bit more, but as is with the proper staging, I would not be afraid to ask $60 to $75 a piece. This next one is from the P1, is because it's that time. I was scrolling through their website and they have their fall decor out. This was on the front page, and they want $130 for this set of painted 4x4 cutoffs. So like I told you before, whenever you see the big box store starting to make items for different seasons, it's time for you to start making items for different seasons. The first ones with the items out for those seasons are going to be the first ones to make the sales. So we have seen similar setups for this in the past. That's all that they have done is taken 4x4s. You could use a brand new one, cut them to these lengths, which is 8, 12, and 13 inches, and then paint them all black. Wait for that to dry, and the rest is going to be in the distressing. I would hand distress these, especially if you have a black undercoat. Take a fine grit sandpaper on the orange and the white one until that top coat starts to come off. Do not sand these before because you want material to be able to come off. Make sure to follow the grain whenever you sand, and do not sand too deep or you'll go past your black base and into the natural wood color. And if you look at the black one really close here at the top, that's actually what they have done on purpose. Since the whole thing is black, they are actually using the natural wood as their offset color. The candles, we've talked about candles before. You can pick them up for next to nothing on Amazon. They're dirt cheap for these electric candles. They've added the designs after they've distressed the boards. That's all that you would have to do to make these templates, to draw these out on a piece of cardboard, cut those out, and then just use some spray paint. It's not that hard. Look at the ghost, okay? Those are kind of like misshapen circles. For this look, you want it to look vintage. You do not want perfect angles. Look at the triangles on the pumpkin. You notice how they're not like sharp, acute angles. You want it to look like it was all hand drawn. So hand draw it, cut it out, stencil. They're wanting $130 for this set. We're not going to get $130 for this, but you have very little in this material. This is going to be one of those items you're going to have to test the market in your area to see what you can get out of these. But one thing that I do know is that these will sell. It's a bookshelf, and it caught my eye because it's different. It has this funky shape to it that kind of flows. This thing would be awesome in any corner, and especially like in a child's room or a little reading nook somewhere. What caught my eye about this was the design. It looks like that it would be a very intricate design. It's not. It is super simple to do, and you could pump these out if you wanted to. Right now, this 11 by 11 by 62 inch tall bookshelf is on sale for $140. And yes, that's not a bad price for this. If it wasn't made out of MDF and it's going to fall apart in a couple of years. So let me tell you how to easily make this out of solid material. So to start with, almost everything on here is working off of 11-inch pieces. Or if you were going to sell several of these, I would use cabinet grade plywood and use some edge banding on the exposed parts. So let's go ahead and tackle this funky curve that they've got going on here. So that's all that they've done is taken an 11-inch board that is 62 inches long, and we'll pretend like that this is our 11 by 62. I know the dimensions are all funky, but you'll get the point. So they've taken that one board, they've measured in 3 inches on the bottom, came straight down the board, then arched over, and then straight back down at the 3-inch mark to create this. And that's all that they have done is turned this sideways. If you can look at this picture and then look at this example, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So now we know how they've done the hardest part of this whole build. The rest of it's just putting it together. We're going to pretend that this is a 10 1/4 by 9 1/2. Sound like Mr. Rogers. We're going to be pretending, okay? I like to use examples, and a lot of people learn by saying, so this is how we're going to do it. 10 1/4 by 9 1/2. Those dimensions are important because the rest of this will be sliding in around it. So if we were starting at our bottom, this is what it would look like, okay? There's your feng shui. I don't think feng shui actually applies to this. There's your neat, I'll just call it neat. There's your neat looking bookshelf design. And that's all they did is take one board, the exact same boards that they're going to be using to make the rest of this, cut it in half, and moved this to the other side. That is a piece of pie. It creates an awesome look. So we know the dimensions of the inside. Now our back two pieces are going to be the exact same size as this first one was. So in total, you're going to need 3 of these 11 by 62 panels. One of those you are going to lay out your design and cut that like this with a jigsaw, and then the other two will just nest in around. So those dimensions that I told you earlier, those are important as well as the layout. So your first board that you are attaching, I would attach the curved board with the wide base, and this is going to sit completely flush with the front. And then the back, 3/4 of an inch overhang. That way we can bring in one of our backboard and attach it flush to this. As far as attaching all of this, that's all that they've used is glue and brad nails. I would throw some screws in there and maybe put some plugs. When you go to install the second part of your main design with the narrow part down, it's going to sit flush on the front with a 3/4 inch overhang on the back. And that will allow your second backer board to just nest in flush with this. That way what you are seeing in the front is completely flush all the way around, and all of our butt joints are going to be on the inside that's back against the wall. So essentially it's just hiding those butt joints. It's eye-catching. There are a ton of different possibilities that you could use this for. This would make an awesome bourbon cabinet. This would be super cool in a bathroom to stack your towels and your washcloths on. So think outside of the box whenever it goes to marketing this. They are only marketing this as a bookshelf, and that is who will buy this. People will not think outside of the box like that. You have to do that for them. So whenever you stage this up, stage it up as a bookshelf, stage it up as a bourbon cabinet, stage it up in a restroom with washcloth, whatever comes to your mind. That's how you create something interesting, and that is how you sell it. And they are wanting $140 for this thing, and I don't think that they're that far off. I would sell this for $140. Yours is going to be solid wood, and it's going to be staged up in a way where people will remember it. So if you're still with me at this point in the video and you think that I have earned it, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And while you're at it, make sure to check out our Patreon community. We are having a great time, and it is growing like crazy. If you don't know anything about the community, just check it out. I'll make sure to throw a link in the description. Next one's a little bit different. It's a game. Okay, so we've talked about this in the past. Games will actually fall in that category that people will spend money on because it's a form of entertainment. And so I came across this game. They're calling it Stacking Wall Wood Game. So kind of really original there. It's essentially exactly what the name says. They're stacking these blocks up and they're making a wall like this. I like mine better. And the whole point of the game is just like your old school Jenga, where multiple players take turns pushing out these wooden blocks. And the first rule to Stacking Wall Wood Game is you don't talk about stacking wall wood game. If you know that movie reference, drop it into the comments. But this is just like old school Jenga. It's a multiplayer game, but instead of these blocks being stacked in a square, they're stacked into a wall. Take turns pushing the blocks out, and whoever it falls on loses. I've never seen this game before. So they are wanting $56 for this exact game. I don't know what the average price for this is because I've never seen it. And it looks like that people play it more overseas than they do in the United States. But it's a super fun game to play. I actually made 2 prototypes, and it's a fun game. And the super cool thing is that you can make this out of 2x4s or scrap wood. And so this is the prototype that I made out of a 2x4. Did not use stain or paint or anything like that just because this is my prototype. Just FYI, I will be giving you the dimensions for every part of this and teaching you how to make it. But as always, if you're a plans in the hand type of person and you would actually like the plans for this, I'll put a set of plans in my Etsy shop, and the link for that will be in the description. This is one that I made out of some old pine that I had laying around. There is no stain on this. I just used the natural colors to make my offset pattern. I think it turned out pretty cool. So this prototype is not fastened together like this, so I can show you exactly how it was made. Like I was telling you earlier, how you play the game is you can use a pencil or take a little dowel rod. This is just a 3/8 dowel rod that I put a tip on, and you take the blocks out. You take turns. Somebody loses. Again, the competition is wanting $56 for this thing. I made this out of 1 2x4. And again, with this being a game and being a different type of game, people will spend money on it and they will buy it. So every one of these blocks are 1.5 inches tall. That's the 2x4 length flat, 3/4 of an inch thick, and then you'll have 2 different lengths. The larger blocks are 2.5 inches long, and the short blocks are only 1.25 inches. So whenever you're cutting these short blocks, make sure to put a sacrificial board against the fence if you're using your miter saw, just to keep the block from being pulled into the saw. If you have any type of a table saw sled or miter gauge, you're going to get a lot cleaner cut cutting these on the table saw. So the blocks are super simple to make. Now the sides. The sides are just as easy to make. These sides are 1.5 inches tall. by 1 inch thick by 9 3/4 of an inch long. And that's all that I've done to attach these sides to the base, is put 2 pocket holes in the bottom of each one of the sides and attach them 1/2 of an inch in from the end and the front. And the base itself is 1.5 inches thick, 2.5 inches wide, and 14 1/4 inches long. And then there's just one final piece, and that's this cap. And this cap is not attached. It's just used as a weight to put down pressure on these blocks. That way they don't fall as easy. And that's it. And like your most successful games that are out there, the simpler the game, the better. I'd never seen this version of it. Think of some super cool name for it. Something better than Stacking Wall Wood Game. Maybe like Wrecking Ball. I don't know. But just think of a super cool name for it. And then once you have your super cool name, even if you're making this out of 2x4s, put a little extra effort into it and stain these different colors. You do not have different color wood like this. That will actually allow you to stack these in different patterns like I did with this. And people can actually use this as a decoration whenever they're not playing the game. I think it's a pretty cool idea, and that it turned out great. You have no excuse not to make these, and I'm telling you now, these things will sell like crazy. So while we're talking about games, we know that people love them, we know that people will spend money on them. Let's talk about this oversized block wooden tower game. They call it everything. There's literally 100 different names for this from different companies that are making it, and they are all expensive. And I personally have had a ton of people ask if I could make this game for them. And that's all that it is wooden blocks. And most of these are just 2x4 material that's been stained. They're wanting almost $90 for this set. That's all that they have done, is taken the small game and they're making it bigger and bigger. So all of these different companies sell the small and the jumbo version of this. This is what a jumbo block looks like. So the jumbo version of this is well over $100 online. So next time you're online, make sure to look up Giant Jenga. And so for the mid-size version, the $90 version, that's all that it is 56 of these wooden blocks cut out of 2x4s, and you can actually look at the ends of the natural one and actually see that it's a pine or fir or some type of a soft wood. This one is 1.5 inches thick by 2 inches wide by 6 inches long. That's it. Replicate that 56 times, charge $50. They're charging $90. Charge $50, you'll get it. And it is a super fun game to play. I've played it. It is a great outdoor game. And for the jumbo version of this, the blocks are 1.5 inches thick by 2.5 inches wide by 7.5 inches long. Still 56 pieces, it's just bigger. I'm sure the next time I go onto the site, they're going to have one that's like 10 inches long, and before we know it, we're going to be building these things out of 6x6s just to one up each other here. So this is an awesome and an impressive size, and it can be done out of construction grade 2x4s. As far as the bag that they're using to keep this together, I guess you could probably get one of those made, but we did a video not too long ago about how to make 2 wooden crates out of a 2x4. If you want to talk about making your product stick out, put these blocks in one of those painted up wooden crates. You can make the crate for less than $2, and people will not hesitate to pay the extra money for a storage box that they can use as home decor to actually store the wooden blocks when they're not being used. So not only have you saved money by not having to buy this ugly black bag here, but you've also made your product different and increased its value. So for this next one, earlier in the video, I was talking about the PB taking something that was hot and maybe trending out and creating something new with it. So for all of you guys and gals out there that have been making cutting boards, this one's for you. Coasters. If you've been making cutting boards and you like making cutting boards, take that exact same principle, thin it down. These look like they're only 1/2 inch wide. That's all that they have done for the stand, is taken a scrap board that's the same size as the coaster, drilled holes, glued in dowel rods into each one of those corners, and made a stand to hold all of these together. This is genius. They're really cool. They're wanting $94 for a set of 4 of these. You're not going to get $94 for a set of 4 of these, but coasters are hot and they will sell. So make sure to check out your local market, see what things like this are going for. If there's nothing like this in your local area, set your price high, and then you can always work your way down. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you were able to take something away from this video and that you actually enjoyed it. And if you saw anything in this video that you want to try to build, do not try to build it. Build it. Believe in yourself even if no one else does, because I'm going to tell you that you are going to be your worst enemy when it comes to trying something new. You're going to tell yourself that you cannot do something when you should be telling yourself that you will not accept failure for any reason. So keep your chin up, become your biggest supporter. Anything is possible. Until next time, guys, we'll see ya.